So recently I saw on a friend's Facebook feed, it was a video about how to change what you want. And the guy was talking about how in order to change what we want, we need to do the thing that we want. And I sort of thought about that and thought he's kind of right. That in order to start doing something more, if you start doing something more, you'll build up your subconscious like of doing it, and you'll probably want to do it more. But it isn't really right that to want to do it more, you have to do it. It's out of order. Really, to just start doing something more is just building a new habit. And he doesn't really talk about how to build a new habit. So I'm going to talk about all of that in this post about long-term change. So first I want to start off with my theory of motivation. This is something I came up with a long time ago, thinking about things that I wasn't doing. And I realized that really, there isn't really motivation. There are things we do, and there are things we want to do, but don't. And if you want to start doing the things that you're not doing, you need to really change a lot of your internal sort of workings. So let me give you an example. And you might change. There might be things that you aren't doing that you start doing, but you really need probably some big life event to tell you to really change. And maybe that would work. So the example is your doctor tells you need to get fit and eat right, or you're going to die. That's a big life change. That's enough of a shock that some people might be like, yeah, okay, I need to change, and I'll immediately get a gym membership and talk to a nutritionist and do what I need to do. It might work. It also might not. Some people just might not be able to change. They might try, but their ingrained habits are so ingrained that they just slip back into their old ways, because change isn't easy. So if we want to change, if we want to build these new habits, how do we do that? You need to reprogram yourself. You need to reprogram yourself, your subconscious. And as we found out in the last post about short-term change, even short-term change can take a while. Long-term change takes a long time. It's not easy. It's not a quick fix. They say that it takes 90 days to build a new habit. I think that's being generous. Maybe for some things it'll take 90 days. I think for some things it's going to take a lot longer. So, as I mentioned in my previous post, change takes persistence. You need to have to really want this. You have to be in it for the long haul. This is going to be a life-changing thing that you are doing. You are going to completely alter this element of yourself. It may take months or years to really get started and get going to where you want to be. Right? Bodybuilders don't get built overnight. It takes years of training. And that's the same sort of thing you're trying to do, is start a new habit, is start a new way of doing things for yourself. So what this means is you have to really want this. And how you feel about it is actually very important. And we'll talk about that in a sec. So what does it take? It takes, number one, awareness. Change is all in the mind. When you change your choices, you get new results. But you have to be aware of what you're choosing, aware of what you're currently doing, and aware of what you want to get to in the end. And part of the problem is that a lot of the choices we make aren't conscious. They're in our subconscious minds. And I refer to those as thought patterns. They're not really choices anymore. They're ingrained thoughts that we just automatically do. So if you want to change these thought patterns, then you need to think differently. And once you start thinking differently and feeling differently, then your behavior will follow. And I want to take a quick note here. My apologies, this is going to be a bit of a longer post. To talk about the stages of learning. I can't remember where I found this initially, but not my thing. Somebody else has come up with this. But there's 4 stages of learning, and they are unconscious incompetence, where you are unaware that something is wrong. Then there's conscious incompetence, where you are aware that something is wrong, but you're still doing it. And that's where you are right now. If you're in the situation where you realize you need to change, but you haven't changed yet, that's where you are. So the next stage is conscious competence. That's where you're starting to change. You're in the process of changing, but it's only with consistent conscious effort. And that's what we'll get to in a moment. But the fourth stage is unconscious competence. That's essentially when you've ingrained something in your subconscious, so you're doing it automatically. And once you get to that point, you're done. But it can take a while. So let's talk about this conscious effort that it takes to change. How do you do that? Well, okay, as I mentioned, we need to change our thoughts and our feelings. So really, in these types of situations, there's three possible situations. You can have a thought pattern that you want to stop. So you're doing something, but you want to stop doing it, like smoking. Now, smoking has a whole other area attached to it of addiction. But if there's something like that, for example, my sister helped me to stop saying the word right when I was a teenager. I used to say right all the time, just unconsciously. I just added into my vocabulary wherever I was speaking, right? Right? So she started saying wrong every time I said right. And that started sparking me into, oh, wow, I'm saying this a lot. So that was when I got to my unconscious incompetence. But just stopping a habit is actually really hard. The easier way to do things is to change a thought pattern. So three options are stopping a thought pattern, changing a thought pattern, or creating a new thought pattern. Changing a thought pattern is actually the easiest of the three, even though it's not easy. It's still the easiest of the three, because what you are trying to do is take something that exists and replace it with something else. This is easier than taking something that exists and replacing it with nothing, or taking nothing and replacing it with something that you want to exist, which is the third option of starting a new thought pattern. So how do we do this? Well, really, in all of these cases, you're probably still going to be replacing it with some form of new thought. So whether it's I'm doing this thing and I want to stop doing it, there's a sort of a thought around stopping doing it. And if you're not doing something, you want to start it, let's say going to the gym, for example. This is almost the new year, so some people might be trying to do that. How do we do that? Well, you need to figure out what you were doing and thinking at the time you want to go to the gym and change that. So there is sort of a built-in thought pattern there, and a built-in habit there. And once you've got all of that figured out, once you've realized that you've identified what your current thought pattern is, and you've decided on your new thought pattern and the new behavior and how you want to change, then what you need to start doing is building awareness. So again, I've already talked about awareness, but this process is all about awareness. And again, persistence and awareness. So what I mean by building awareness is this. It's moving through that stage of stages of learning. It's you start catching yourself afterwards. So again, my example of saying right all the time. The first stage is I would be aware of it, I would say right, and then I'd realize, oh, I just said it. I can't do anything about that. But that's the first stage of awareness. Oh, I've just said it. I want to stop saying that. I need to remind myself I need to stop saying that, so on and so forth. The next stage is you stop yourself during saying it. So again, the case of saying right all the time, it might have been, I was talking to my friend this weekend, right? And right, you catch yourself in the middle of doing whatever this behavior is. And you can sort of stop it in the middle of doing it. But that's still not where we want to be. We don't want to even have started it. And that's the last stage, is you're catching yourself and you're catching yourself and you're catching yourself and you're catching yourself. You're building your awareness. You're being persistent. We went from doing it, catching yourself afterwards, to catching yourself during, to catching yourself before. Right? So what that might sound like in the case of saying right all the time would be, I was talking to so-and-so, and there would probably be that gap because I didn't actually say the word, but I caught myself before I actually said the word. Now, the other thing that this takes is repetition. To get it right, to get it built in, to get it ingrained in our heads, we need to repeat it a lot. So, something like going to the gym, you figure out, okay, at this time of day, I was usually doing this. I'm going to change that to a new way of doing things. I'm going to go to the gym instead. I'm going to go to the gym every day, or these sets of days. I'm going to keep doing that, and I'm going to keep doing that, and I'm going to keep doing that. And it might take months before it becomes ingrained, before it's just like, yeah, my habit is I get up and I go to the gym, or after work I go to the gym. It's just something I do. So I realize this was a lot of info, and I probably went through it a little bit quicker than you might have liked. Feel free to rewatch this a couple of times, but I'll try to remember to add more about this later, because this is really important stuff. But also, I mean, if you want to go through this sort of change in your life, this is the ideal thing to talk to somebody like a coach about. This is the sort of stuff we're trained to help you with. So I hope this has been informative and that you learned something. And until next time, remember to dream big, laugh lots, and create.